Exercise 3.1. Hi, Joe Cerrone, CAD 134, Basic AutoCAD for Interior Design. Today we're going to look at Exercise 3-1, drawing a rectangular conference room, including the furniture. In this exercise, we're going to create a drawing with architectural units that basically looks like this. It's this conference room. We'll start off by setting the drawing limits, the grid display, the grid, the snap, etc. To do that, we'll start by getting a title block from D2L, and we're going to use an architectural title block. And so we'll use this Arc Startup or the B-size Arc. Either one is just fine. They're DWT files. I'm going to download and open the file. Gives me a warning that it's looking for an external reference, but that's fine. And as you can see, I have a student version of AutoCAD here. So let's get started. So we have this grid that's set up within the limits of the display, and that's because we're using grid display set to 0. So if I say grid display and it's set for 0, then I'll get the limits of the drawing will enclose the grid values. To set up the grid in the snap, I like to use the drafting settings under Tools, Drafting Settings. And we'll set up our grid in our snap. Our grid is going to be 12 inches or 1 foot. So that's currently set. If I say 12, it defaults to 1 foot. And then for the snap, I'm going to set that at 6 inches so that I'll get 2 snaps for every grid movement. I like polar tracking to be enabled. And what that'll do is that'll give you a green line, which is, it kind of works like a tape measure. You just point it in the right direction. And I'm going to say OK. Verify snap is on, grid is on, and I'll say OK. I can check my limits also by typing in limits. Lower left-hand value, whoops, didn't do it. Lower left-hand value will be 0, 0, hit enter. And then the upper right-hand value will be 25, foot mark, comma, 35 foot mark, because we're drawing this in real world units. When we draw in CAD in model space, we create the drawings full size. Next, we'll create the layers. And so we'll go into our layer property manager. And we can create these new layers. And so the first layer I'll create is going to be A-ANNO-TEXT. And the color for that will be green. And I typically like to put a line weight on that of 0.3 because that's going to be for text. And so that would be the pencil that I would use for that. I'm going to create 2 more layers. I'm going to create another layer called A-door, and that's going to be red. And again, I'm going to give that a 0.3 line weight, which is fine. I'm going to create a wall interior layer. And so that'll be A-WALL-INTR. That will be blue. And I'm going to beef that line weight up to 0.5 or 0.6. The standards call for 0.6, but 0.5 was what I was always using before, so I have a tendency to default to that. And I'm going to create another layer called iEquipment. I believe it's for an overhead projector, and that will be red. And I'm going to leave that or dial that back down to 0.3. And then lastly, iFurniture. And that'll be cyan or light blue. And I'm going to leave that at 0.3. Let's go with 0.5 on that. Okay, so my layers have been created. And if we take a look at the textbook, these are the layers that we created. We're going to set the A wall interior layer current. We'll zoom all, turn on snap grid and line weight. To set the current layer, we can do it right here. There's my A wall interior line. If I hit zoom all, I can just hit Z for zoom, A for all, or you can double click on the mouse. And then we're going to start off by saving this file as chapter 3 conference room. And so we can do a save as. And I'm going to save this to my desktop in a spot where I keep my CAD 134 things. And I'm going to call it my initials dash CH3 dash EX1. And I'm going to save that. So now we have the drawing, title block, layers, line types, line weight set up. And what we're going to do is we're going to start by drawing a polyline. And you don't really need to draw this as a polyline. They kind of try to teach you different techniques. Really, we just need a rectangle. And a rectangle is a polyline. And so we're going to start it at 5 feet, 5 feet. And then we're going to make the upper right-hand corner 15 feet and 22 feet. And then we're going to close that and offset that. If I were to take a look at the actual dimensions of the room, it's almost easier to kind of see where they're going with it if I have it. And they don't, which is really difficult because it would be so much easier with just the overall dimensions for that. So I'm going to switch over to my CAD system here. And I'm going to start with a rectangle. My line weights I'm going to turn on. I'm going to say rectangle. It's going to ask me where the first point is. I'm going to type 5 feet, 5 feet, enter. And then as I move the cursor, you'll see that the mouse builds the rectangle. It has me put the ortho on, which is just the straight line. And then it has me move the mouse to the right 15 units. And so ortho is this right here. It's just, well, that's polar. I'm going to leave ortho alone right now because I can't seem to find it. But if I go over 15 feet, that would be right there. That's 15 and a half. 14 feet, 6 inches. So that's 15 feet. So we'll go over 15 feet and then we'll move up 22 feet. So we'll go up. I'll turn the wheel on the mouse. I'll push the wheel on the mouse. So we want this to be 15 feet, 22 feet. right there. Hardest way you could think of doing it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take that and we're going to offset that 5 inches. And we're going to offset that outside. So we're going to say offset. We'll say 5 inches is the default. We'll select the polyline and then we'll click to the outside of that. Then it talks about different things like exploding the polyline, ID points, and things like that. If we explode a polyline is a number of lines treated as one. So it's a shape. That's what a polyline is. It's a shape. It has 4 lines, but they're treated as a rectangle. And if we explode a polyline, what happens is it breaks it into individual line segments. And so that's all there is to that. And by having polylines, we have some advantages when we do 3-dimensional work. But we're not working with that at this point right now. ID point gives us the ability to analyze different points and things like that. And so it has this ID a point, and then to be able to get the coordinate value for that. And as I look at it, what it looks like they want me to do is to create a door frame opening that's going to be down here in the lower right hand corner. So if we come back here to the curriculum and we take a look at this, what they're looking at is they want a 6-inch line offset from here, and then they want 5 feet -90 this way. And essentially they're creating a door opening in, again, the hardest way possible. So coming back to our drawing, we're going to come over to this lower corner right here. And all we're going to do is we're going to offset this 6 inches. Now I'm going to explode it because if I don't, it'll just be a square. So if I were to offset this 6 inches and I say 6, I get a square like that. I'm going to escape and undo that. But if I explode it, select that line and hit enter, now it's going to offset an individual drawing line. So I'll offset that 6 inches. And this is the way everybody really does it. Nobody has all these coordinates in their head to be able to do that. And then what I'll do is I'll grab the grip, bring it down, hit escape, click on the top part, and I can grab the grip here too and bring that down to here and hit escape. And I kind of overcompensated a little bit down here, so I'm going to bring it back up. Now, if I can't get it to go where I want it to, I can always use trim. So I'll say trim, I'll select this outside edge, hit enter, and then I'll trim that line right there. And I'll hit escape. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to offset this, and it looks to me like I'm just going to offset it 3 feet. It looks like it's a 3-foot door opening. So I'll say offset 3 apostrophe, which means feet, and I'll select this line and this side. Then I will go to trim and hit enter. When you hit enter using trim, it makes everything a cutting line. And that's essentially what we want. We want to cut out the door frame there. And that's how we would create the door frame with the trim command. And then it has us create a door for this opening. There's different ways to create doors. You're welcome to go through and to just draw this door. If I switch over to the door layer and then I zoom in on the detail for the door, it appears to me that what they're doing is they're creating a line or a rectangle that would be 3 feet from here. And so I'll grab that, I'll track that up, I'll type 3 feet, enter. I'll back up a little bit. I'm not sure what the distance for the door width is. Let's see if they give it to me. Let's just make it 1 inch. And so we'll track it to this direction. We'll say 1. And then we'll track it down this way. And I'll type 3 feet again. And then C for close. And then what we'll do is we'll create an arc that will represent the door. And to do the arc, what we'll do is we'll draw a circle from this point to this point. And then we'll trim it. trim, enter, select the parts you don't want, and it trims it up to the next boundary entity. And we can kind of zoom in on this if we need to. Yeah, that's okay. All right. Switching back. So there's our door. And then we'll create the furniture for the room. And so we have a table and we have a conference table. And they're located in the center of the room and in the back of the room. And all you need to do is use the offset command to make that work. That's the fastest way rather than to use the rectangle command, because you don't need to know the coordinates like that. And so what we'll do is we'll come back here. Sorry, I've got a lot of SolidWorks here. Quite busy these days. Let's get rid of all these other ones. Come back to our drawing, maximize it. And what we'll do is we'll start with the conference table in the back. And the conference table in the back is located 2 inches away from the wall. Now, if you go to the A furniture layer, I'm just going to hit furniture because I can't seem to find it. And I'm going to offset 2 inches, offset 2, enter this line, that side. I need to then update the layer that that's on by clicking on it and then putting it on my furniture layer. So I'll go with my furniture layer and I'll hit escape. And then what I'll do is I'll offset 4 feet to from the inside wall, 4 apostrophe enter, line, side, enter, enter again, and I'm going to change it to 84 inches, 84, enter, line, side, enter, enter again to get the last command back, 24, enter, line, and side, enter. And then it's got a chamfer. It looks like it's 2 inches, so I'm going to set that up under chamfer, and then I'm going to hit the down arrow. Doesn't seem to want to do that, so I'm going to go with distance, and I'll say 2, enter, and 2, enter. My computer's getting old. Sometimes the keys. You can buy a secondary keyboard with Bluetooth. Keep everything running. So that's my conference table, or at least my table for beverages, I guess. And then I'm going to make the conference table by offsetting 5 feet 6 inches, 5 apostrophe 6, enter. Inches is the default, so we don't have to put the quotation marks. And then I'll offset that 48. And I'll select the line and the side. And then I'll select an offset 6 feet. I'll dial this back and I'll offset here. And then I'll offset 120 inches, which will be, it looks like I missed my 6 feet. And then we'll again chamfer all these edges with that 2-inch chamfer. There we go. All right, it's a good time to save it, so I'm just going to hit the Save As button just to verify where it's going. Great, JC Chapter 3, Exercise 1, save. Yes, replace it. All right, let's take a look at some more of our work. So I was right, it is a 2-inch distance for the chamfer. So many words just to draw a square. So we're going to draw a square here that's going to be 2 feet 2 inches by 2 feet 4 inches. And then we're going to fillet that chair, and it's going to want a 12-inch radius on each side, so we'll get a half arc. Let's get started with that. So off outside of the room, we'll go and we'll create a line that's going to be 2 feet 2 inches, 2 feet 2, enter. And then as long as you have the polar, that's what this green line is. And then we'll go 2 feet 4, and then we'll come back this direction, 2 feet 2, and then we can type C for close. It's kind of the shortcut. And then what we'll do is we'll create a fillet with a radius of 12. So we go and we select fillet, and then we hit the down arrow. Now, some reason my down arrow is not working. Maybe it's because it's in my numeric lock or something like that, or my keys are going bad. So I can always get it down here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and select radius, and then I'm going to type in 12, enter. And then I'm going to select this line and this line. Right mouse click, repeat it, and then I'm going to go with this line and this line. And that creates that geometry for us. Then what we're going to do is we're going to offset and trim, and it looks to me like it's a 3-inch back of the chair that goes around it. And so if we take a look at that, 3 inches, so we'll offset this 3 inches, and then we'll offset this 5 inches, and then we've got some other radiuses. And so this is just a radiusing exercise in trimming. So if we come back here to our CAD and we offset 5 inches, we can select this and that, and then we can offset 3 inches. What I'm doing is I'm repeating the last command by hitting the space bar. You can either hit the space bar or the enter key. And then what we're going to do is go to the inside with that. Let's over exaggerate it like that. We can then offset the lines the same amount, 3 inches. I can draw a line connecting the endpoints. Make sure that you have an O-snap available or on so that when you draw the line, it attaches. I'm going to have to turn off my snap to do that. And so here's there to there and escape. And then I'm going to fillet 3 inches and 2 inches. So the outside is going to be 3. So fillet, if I go and I type R for radius, it tells me I've got a 1-inch fillet radius set up right now. I'm going to set it up for 3 inches. And then I'm going to get these outside of the chair. I'm going to hit the space bar to repeat it. And then I'm going to go and hit enter. And I can right mouse click, repeat fillet, and change the radius to 2 inches. And then I can go and select this line and this line. And I lost my other line, so I'm going to just draw a line from here and just track it across. And then I'm going to fillet this line and this line, and then I'm going to trim that away. And so that's our chair for the room. And as we continue on, we can rotate that chair and move it into a location, and then we can create a point style, and then we can divide the table into equal parts that would measure 4.5 inches. And so as we look at the curriculum here, we're going to use the rotate command, and we're going to use the offset command for that. And so what we'll do is we will offset. First, we'll set up the point style. So we come back in here like this. And what we can do is we can move this chair, just select it, And we can move it from the midpoint. Now, if you're not getting a midpoint O-snap, then it's not enabled. So I'm going to enable midpoint. And then I'm going to move it. I'm going to select it. And I'm going to move it from the midpoint over to here. And then what they do is they offset the table line. And it looks to me, let's see how much it's offset. It looks like 6 inches. I could be wrong. But if I come over here and I say offset and I say 6, now if it offsets the entire square, then it's a rectangle and it's a polyline. So you have to fix it by exploding it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come in here to the utilities and we're going to go to point style. And you can choose any one. Doesn't have to be the one that they had. I'll use the same one. And then I'm going to set it up in absolute unit sizes. And I typically set this up at like, let's go with 0.5 and see how that looks. And then what we're going to do is we're going to either measure or divide to put the spacing. And so I'm going to divide this into 4 equal parts. And so I'm going to say here under points, there is a command called divide. And if I select divide, and then I select the object to divide, and then it says 4, or the number of parts will be 4, that will be 4. And then I'm going to do it again right here. And I'm going to say 4. Now, my points are really small. So if I come back here to my point style, and let's go with something bigger, and let's just go with like 4. There we go. Now I can see it. And so I have these different lines that are set up for the furniture, or at least these different coordinates, and I'm going to put 4 chairs on there. Now it looks to me like I need 1, 2, let's see, I need to break this into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It looks like I need to divide this into 8 pieces, and so I'm going to go and erase these points. Hit delete or erase. And I'll divide it again. And so I'm going to say draw, divide, and I'm going to say this one here, 8, enter. And then I'm going to take the chair and I'm going to go and place it. And so I'll rotate it about the midpoint, 90 degrees. And then I'll copy it. And so I'll copy this chair. Got to get this little piece here too. From the midpoint to the node. And then I can go here and I can say node again. Would have been better if I would have set my O-snap. And then I'm going to right click. I'm going to say node again. And I'm going to right click and I'm going to say node again. Okay, so I have my chair set and I'm going to just erase this one here. And then I'm going to mirror them. It's faster to mirror it than it is to go through and do that whole geometry again. So I'm going to mirror it by saying mirror. I'll select the parts to mirror. And then I'm going to select the midpoint and the midpoint. Erase source object, no. And then I'll get rid of this. All right. So that's part 1 of how to create the furniture in the conference room. I'm going to go to the floor plan on the layout. I'm going to double click in the viewport and then I'm going to turn the wheel. I can double click on the wheel to do a zoom all and I can dial that down and then I can set my viewport scale. Let's try with 1/4 of an inch equals a foot. That looks great. So I'm going to lock my viewport. I'm going to save my drawing one more time as Chapter 3, Exercise 1. And this completes part 1 of this video.